happy to see so many faces here this early after a rave. So I hope I didn't take part, so just to prepare. So yeah, my talk today is about securing DeFi. And we had a lot of amazing talks during this week in technical details. This one will be a little bit higher level. What is done in the whole security community to think about security holistically. So just I'll give you a quick intro. I'm from ChainSecurity. We are doing smart contracts audit for quite some time in the space. And if you want to read it up, most of our reports are public on our website. We also have a lot of educational material and disclosures on our Medium blog post. Some examples, like there was once a hard fork which was delayed. Then we were responsible for another hard fork in Berlin, the Berlin hard fork. Then, for example, new bugs which are being researched on. We released something where we also won the underhanded solidity contest with. Yeah, so this is ChainSecurity, just very briefly. But so what this is about. First, say there was code, right? And it was good. And then came cryptocurrencies. Still, the world was mostly fine. Then came tokens. Things got a little bit more complicated. Then came exchanges. And it was still all manageable, although we saw the first hacks happening here. Then came lending protocols, and now it starts to get really interesting. And after lending protocols, we saw an explosion, the DeFi explosion, right? We had derivatives, synthetics, we have aggregators, we have bridges, layer 2s are coming up. All of this, right? And what does this lead to? Today, we mostly have chaos. And this is what it does to the code. So what is being done to help here? And it is really a holistic thing. So I'm going over the most important areas which are being covered to secure these funds. But before I do, I'll quickly show you what happens when there is chaos. So you might be familiar with this. This is the Rect leaderboard, and it goes on and on and on. And these numbers are crazy, right? I can also go into details in most of these hacks. They have various reasons. Keys getting lost. Up to nowadays, state actors apparently trying to infiltrate projects to steal those funds. This is for allegedly what happened to Ronin Bridge on the top. Poly Network was a smart contract bug. There was an attack with flash loans on governance in, I think this one was for Beanstalk. Wormhole was a vulnerability in a library or not an understanding of how the library works in Solana, and so on and so on and so on, right? So what is done to secure things? So this is a primary thing which is being done. I'm not saying that this is enough, right? It is also what we offer, of course. Things are being audited. But if I go back here, just quickly, then you see most of these have the unaudited tag. So there is a strong correlation between being audited and being hacked. So let me, a little bit slow. Okay, so what else is being done? We have nowadays VCs, protocols, and insurances who cover losses. Sometimes, I mean, for various reasons, right? We have bug bounties out there, which should incentivize a black hat to not hack the protocol, but claim the bug bounty instead, and they have multi-million-dollar bug bounties. We do a lot about education and disclosures. Hackers are being found, they're being hunted, and they are being incentivized in various means to return the funds. And there is a very active community of white hats, researchers, and of course protocols who take this very serious and who react both to potential issues and ongoing issues in war room-like scenarios and share information. These are all the areas I'll quickly go into. So what's the state with audits? So most hacks happen to unaudited projects. But why is that so? Audits are very hard to get. Pipelines are very full with the auditors. It's 6, 9 months, 12 months out that you need to book an audit nowadays. Audit is a high-stress business, right? It has certain burnouts. Some people leave the audit space, do something else. Of course, a lot of new people join too. It takes really time to grow that talent. Also, for projects which are more on a budget, audits are very expensive. They easily exceed 20% of your total development budget. And then this is far in excess of what you see in the traditional Web 2 world. The audit quality improved a lot, but there is a big but on this one. A lot of new joiners in that space are learning still, and obviously that reduces the quality, which can lead to false security. So just one takeaway, because it's DeFi Day and perhaps many of you are running projects, think of audits very, very early. Actually, think of security from day one, meaning you think about, hey, what do I want to build and how do I want to secure it? Ideally, you already talk to some auditors and then book something. It is always easier to move a slot than to create a new one. It already helps you from day one to know what's coming up. So here I'm talking a little bit of what others are doing. So for example, Ronin Bridge, 600 million hack, raised funds afterwards. So this is Axie Infinity. And they used those raised funds to refill the bridge and basically to that degree bail out users. Wormhole, famously on the next day, the VC said, okay, I'm just replenishing the funds, right? Some DAOs, some protocols are picking up the bill. This is just one example from Agave DAO for Gnosis. We have more and more payouts from insurances. It's just one example from one of the older ones, from Nexus Mutual, who paid out more than 100,000 in insurance claims. This is to individual investors, right, not to the whole project. Obviously, there's a risk to this. You cannot count on that your project, your VC will bail you out. This is, I think, only sustainable as long as we are in a very bull market where money is very available. The next thing which is being done are multi-million-dollar bug bounties. So the initial thing was like a large bug bounty used to be 10,000, 50,000. This was already a large bug bounty. In Web 2, that is already very, very decent money, right? But nowadays, in Web 3, that is not a lot. And the reason for it being the immediate possibility to steal incredible amounts is being weighted on with this. This is a very two-sided sword because you do give incentives for like hackers to do the right thing, but still it's very, very expensive. Like we are engaged with Maker. We do a lot of their audit work, right? But also Maker runs one of the biggest bug bounties, a 10 million bug bounty. And you can imagine how anxious we were when they launched this. And it was like, okay, is it still secure? So far, nothing came up, right? It is very good to have that defense in there. But yeah, the stakes are very high here. I think that what's done in the bug bounty space, also especially around creating trust towards hackers and allowing them that they are sure that like if they find something, they get paid, is really helping the industry a lot. And we saw it with, yeah, I don't know, there's millions of bug bounties being paid out till today. Then, My favorite topic, education and disclosures. This is a little bit a messy one because it's hard for you to know where to look, right? And it's all over the place. Twitter is the best place, but then Twitter is like everything is on Twitter, right? It's hard to know what to look for. So an example like blog posts like the Underhead and Solidity contest, what happened there from all the participants. Then, of course, from the larger audit companies and the smaller audit companies, there are lots of educational material out there, blog posts. And this is often, in the security industry, this is kind of alpha, right? This is where we learn about new types of attacks. And this is also very good material for everyone here, because if you think of hunting, like finding bug bounties in projects, and you realize, hey, this kind of bug, this is likely also in that protocol, which is similar to what they have looked at or what I am building. They might, often people make the same mistakes over and over again. There is nowadays really reward for helping others through bug bounties and obviously through audits. There's very good work done on bootcamp style educational material. The security bootcamp is one which I can recommend. This is an example of a Twitter feed, right? So from CIA officer, there's like collecting a lot of material. There is also the like get into it way to do it, of course with us, but also with others, right? And these are well-paid internship opportunities where you can really learn this on a much deeper level. It is kind of challenging to get in, but yeah, they are there, so don't be shy to try. And there I can also say like Open Zeppelin, Trail of Bits, Consensus Diligence, all of them run this, right? There are YouTubes, and I was actually tempted to repeat a talk which one of my colleagues gave at ETH Denver, which is basically going through the common vulnerabilities which we see in DeFi, but it's recorded. So there is a 20-minute YouTube video which you can go through to get really a nice, more technical idea of what you need to take care of. Okay, so this is again a little bit more story time. So what happens? Sometimes hackers are being found in various means. Very publicly, the exchange happened when Polynetwork got hacked, right? It was, again, one of the biggest hacks in history. And they communicated with the hacker via messages sent to yourself with data in it, right? And everyone could follow along. And then it is interesting you do have here the unique opportunity to see into a little bit the mind and the feelings of a hacker while this is happening. And this is very likely, a single person, right? So this hacker returned all the funds. Another hacker which was found, right? This was through a cascade of small things. I don't want to go into detail how this one was found, because it can trip off what you need to do to stay hidden, right? But it was really following small dots and then finally realizing it is that person who like doxed himself in some weird way and then was able to be found and motivated to return the funds, even though he was sitting in a jurisdiction which is hard. But there are then ways to motivate these people. This one was China. Yeah, and then the last part of it. So what's being done in the security community? There is a very active East security Telegram group. It has 1,000+ members in there. It is semi-open, meaning there's not a public link to join, but most of us are in there and you're free to join, right, in that sense. Ask your auditor, ask someone in the security community for that link and you'll get invited. There are more invite-only groups. Paradigm, where Sam Zisson is nowadays part of, runs one where a lot of the white hat hack activities being coordinated. This is an invite only. There it's really you need to know the person. Not necessarily, they can be anon, right? But you need to know them still. Because there we really share information about current live vulnerabilities and how to mitigate them. Yeah, and then again, a little bit to the audience. So there's this war room-like scenario which is happening. And eventually, and we have seen this again and again, this is going to happen. And it's very good to be ready for it. It's very good to know what's coming up. Have people, and the most important people in a war room are the devs from the protocol who know the smart contracts, first and foremost, I'd say. And then afterwards, executives who can just keep the calm and support, right? This is their role. Then in DAOs, you need people who can execute. So I made it executive/multi-sig signers, right? So that is the thing in DAOs. You need them, those who are able then to take action. Often auditors are being added to these war rooms to quickly react to if there are changes to be done, what could the impact be, and obviously also often there is a mix between the auditor and the white hat researcher who found the thing in the first place. For us, if we find something which affects multiple protocols, what we really like to do is to reach out to the other auditors, because this is the last part I'll get into for my final words. It is incredibly hard to reach projects when there is a security incident. You can't imagine how often we have been sitting there and just trying desperately to reach someone and telling them, look, anyone can steal 10 millions from you right now. And then you finally get someone through asking friends and friends, right? They don't have a security contact anywhere. And then you need to explain it to them. And it takes a lot of time until they understand, because often these things are very complicated. So there it really helps to have that trusted third party, the auditor, on board, which can translate, and where they already, these projects, have a trusted relationship with and know, hey, if they say it, it's true. Because otherwise, who is this random guy who tells me that 10 million can be stolen right now? Yeah, other things. So security is holistic. My cryptos, or nowadays MetaMask, Taylor, she wrote this a little bit paranoid security guide, which is very holistic, which goes into everything, thinking of end user security. Follow it, and whenever you deviate from it, know that when you do, what you are doing, right? And some of them you might think like, I can't possibly follow this. As I said, add something like security at my protocol.xyz to your front page. Make it very easy to be found. Also, do bug bounties, right? Even with small amounts, it makes it very easy for people to disclose, right? And for us, if you are on platforms like Immunify, then we know where to find you, and we know we can release a bug this way, and we will know that it will reach the right people. It will not be leaked, because a bug which affects you might affect others too. So we need to have trust that you don't like go out and try to hack more protocols with that information of how you are now vulnerable. Yeah, and then invest in security from day one. So prevention is still the best thing we have in this industry. It is incredibly hard to fix things in prod, and no code is ever perfect. And by thinking of this from day one and then spending money internally to secure your project, to think about like, can I train perhaps a developer to go through that security bootcamp or so, right? Not to become an auditor, but just to be better at securing your own project. That's probably the biggest bang for bucks you can get. So with this, thanks a lot for being here so early. Yeah, I don't know how we are on time.
So We actually have another 5 minutes before the next panel, and I was wondering if you could tell us a story from one of the war rooms. Like maybe you can tell a little bit about what happened, how intense it was.
Yeah. Okay.
Thanks a lot.
Which one? So perhaps one which involved multiple protocols. So as I said, if you find a bug in DeFi, it is often something which is being used all across the stack because we keep building on top and on top and on top of things. So this was a war room where one of the oracles which are heavily being used was vulnerable, and that was embedded. And here, parallel disclosure to approximately 5-6 projects which you can find on the top 20 in DeFi polls was needed. And that was a good thing because those projects are kind of reachable, right? So at that moment you start to have mostly still Telegram, even though security thinks badly of that, but for practical reasons, Telegram, Keybase, chats, those two have been opened with these groups to disclose to them the vulnerability, then coordinate the responses. This involved, yeah, I mean, I already mentioned broadly, you can have an idea which projects this involved, if it's top 20 DeFi pods. And there, it was critical that each of these does two things, right? You mitigate future harm. This usually happens through disabling certain features on your protocol, which you can do through governance, and do the long-term thing of fixing your code, which takes way longer. It needs to be audited, and also the governance steps are way longer to put this in production. It is public by now that, because projects did upgrade last Friday, mostly. Yeah, this is one, and there it really helped, actually, to have these very good people who know what they are doing. Yeah, is there perhaps any questions from the audience? I'm happy. Oh, there's one. I can repeat your question for the microphone. Yeah, very good question. So we get asked this a lot. What's the responsibility of auditors if there is a hack? So I just repeat, Wormhole has been hacked. Wormhole has been audited by a company. Wormhole is Solana code, is Rust code by a company which is rather new, but that is every company who does this, right? Or most, let's say it this way, in this space. What's the liability of an auditor? The biggest one is naturally their brand, the stake they have in that, the trust people have in a brand, in the people who secure you. That is the biggest stake they naturally have. And if a project gets hacked, that brand can take a heavy, heavy hit. There is usually contractually no financial obligation because a security audit just can never be perfect and is structured like that. It's not an insurance. Luckily, we do have insurances nowadays who can take up this part. So it's again this combination. I'd say they audit companies to have a lot of skin in the game, from that their business depends on being able to protect projects really successfully.